Match trip Baker Easy 3-4. We're estimated 45 miles west of you. Request radar bearing. Over.
Baker Easy 3-4, this is Tempelhof radar. You're drifting out of the corridor. You're approaching Russian territory. Come left to a heading of 020. Left 020.
This is Bob Considine. This is the story of Mats. The Berlin Airlift, America's answer to Russia's attempted theft of a free city. For 14 months, at times through impossible weather, every piece of equipment, every morsel of food, every vial of medicine, everything necessary to support a city of 2.5 million, airlifted through corridors only 20 miles wide. The Berlin Airlift, supported by a command just 3 weeks old, MATS, Military Air Transport Service, organized from Navy and Air Force units. A rough start for a new outfit, but it proved the vital importance of combat-ready strategic airlift. Planes landed around the clock, many times at 3-minute intervals. Almost 2.5 million tons of cargo delivered, and it worked. Russia's first major challenge to the free world was turned back. In 1950, Korea. Again, the free world served notice it would fight aggression. During Korean hostilities, MATS Air Rescue Service picked up nearly 10,000 United Nations soldiers from combat areas. 1,000 of these were snatched from behind enemy lines. Squadrons rushed combat casualties to the States. Over 90% of all Korean wounded traveled by air. Twice as many combat casualties lived compared to the World War II death rate. This outstanding success made air evacuation of military patients standard procedure at all times. No American fighting man anywhere in the world is more than 72 hours from a stateside hospital, from home. In support of the Korean action, 100 MATS planes were often airborne simultaneously over the Pacific. High-priority cargo to Japan, guns, fire control gear, ammunition, personnel, food, medicine. From 70 tons of cargo per month to the Far East, an increase to 106 tons per day to Japan alone. This rapid buildup, essential to a military operation, was possible because planes and crews were available, trained, completely familiar with routes to be flown, combat ready. It became obvious we could not match our potential enemies in numbers of soldiers without sacrificing the national economy. The emphasis in logistics, the science of military support, shifted from stockpiling to direct support. Defense planners substituted quality for quantity, provided, through MATS, flexibility and instant reaction. In emergency, the vast complex of worldwide bases can be reinforced in hours. During the years following Korea, MATS provided regular airlift support for defense installations worldwide. In addition, thousands of special missions were flown. Constant activity maintained the service at a high level of training, ready for war anytime, any place in the world, ready to answer any peacetime call for aid. In 1952, 4,000 Muslims on their annual pilgrimage to Mecca were stranded without transportation in Beirut. MATS flew them to their holy city, won a new respect from the Arab world. In 1954, Operation Wounded Warrior, more than 500 courageous French troops wounded in the historic Battle of Dien Bien Phu, flown 3/4 of the way around the world to Paris. 2 years later, the United States opened its arms to Hungarian refugees fleeing that ravaged country. In 3 weeks, MATS flew nearly 10,000 freedom fighters to McGuire Air Force Base, New Jersey. Operation Safe Haven, an American tradition. Through all this, normal traffic flowed around the world with thousands of missions each month. Airdrops to scientific stations in the Arctic Ocean, the early warning radar network in Alaska, the Dew Line, complete aerial supply for Operation Deep Freeze at the South Pole. Thousands of military personnel and civilian scientists were completely dependent on MATS support. Without airlift, many projects are impossible. Thor intermediate range ballistic missiles to Britain in giant turboprop C-133s. MATS continue to support remote missile range stations to provide worldwide weather information and communication services. Other missiles airlifted to Cape Canaveral for testing. Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, MATS headquarters.
I understand. We'll stand by for your directive to execute Sugar 4 Charlie. This Colonel Triolo, activate the command post immediately. Stand by to implement Sugar 4 Charlie and notify Commander MATS.
The Secretary of Defense has put the command on standby. In the Transport Control Center, detailed messages stream out to MATS units and planes around the world. Direct hotline passes the word to all MATS bases. Time is probably the most expensive commodity in war. It can be bought with human lives or by preparation. MATS, like the Tactical Air Command and the Strategic Air Command, purchases time by being combat ready at all times.
Lebanon has asked us for help. We have been directed to execute Sugar 4 Charlie. But remember this, the situation in the Far East and in Taiwan looks bad. And we must remember this before we commit our forces. Now here's what we will do.
MATS has specific, detailed plans to meet any situation that might develop anywhere in the world. This time, the Middle East. Beirut, capital city of Lebanon in the heart of Mideast trouble spots, over 5,000 miles from the United States. Civil war threatens to disrupt this country, overthrow its government. A United States Navy task force stands off Beirut. In the city's streets, violence and death, and then at times a deceptive calm. The first Marine assault wave piles into the Papa boats. A spark here could ignite the whole Middle East, throw the world into major conflict. Prepare to land on the beaches. This is a deadly serious operation. No one knows what to expect. At Matt's headquarters, the smooth, carefully rehearsed plan goes into effect.
Hello, East Staff Command Post. This is Headquarters Matt's Command Post. Execute.
Eastern Transport Air Force Headquarters, McGuire Air Force Base, New Jersey. Nerve center for the mission.
This is East Staff Transport Control Center. Understand, execute. Sugar 4 Charlie.
East Staff, direct control over all missions to the far north, South America, Europe, Africa, and as far east as Saudi Arabia. Beirut is almost at the end of the line.
This is East Staff Command Post. Execute Sugar 4 Charlie. Acknowledge, please.
McGuire TCC, acknowledge 17. Thor TCC, acknowledge 17. Norfolk TCC, acknowledge 17. Charleston TCC, acknowledge 17. Donaldson TCC, acknowledge 17.
Hello, Fox Easy 10. This is Jigsaw. Cancel your flight plan and refile for Rhine-Main, Germany. Execute Sugar 4 Charlie.
First job, get 36 Globemasters to Rhine-Main. 5,000 troops and critically needed supplies must be moved to Lebanon with all possible speed. The aircraft must be there within 36 hours, yet flight time alone from the States is 30 hours. Aircraft in flight over the Atlantic and Europe are diverted. Other aircraft at bases in England, France, and the Azores proceed to Rhine-Main. At lodges 500 miles off the coast of Portugal, a C-124 crew ready for takeoff is stopped, taken back for briefing, rerouted to Germany. A true air alert force, able to act much faster than if tied to a home base. Speed and flexibility of men and equipment. D-Day combat readiness.
Crowden, this is Matt Strip number 42, over. Roger, Crowden, Matt Strip number 42, 15 minutes from Rhine-Main. We have contact with Rhine-Main Tower. Request to clear airways, over.
Transport Control Center has everything ready. The Army has been notified of expected arrival. Just 5 hours after H-time, the first plane is loading. Rapid aerial support of an action with troops, equipment, and supplies is the alternative to trying to be everywhere with everything at the same time. Within hours, 500 men at one point can be increased to 5,000. In order to contain Cold War aggression, each threat to the free world must be met. To give in just once is to invite disaster.
144, winds 210 degrees, 12 knots, cleared for takeoff.
As more planes arrive, more men and supplies are readied. The tempo increases. Air transport, the answer to efficient combat logistics. Matt's maintenance and control crews at overseas bases service the increased traffic. Ground time for a plane is held to absolute minimum. Gas, food, and necessary services are waiting the minute it pulls into the chocks. The first aircraft from the States bring personnel and supplies. Mere hours from execution of Sugar 4 Charlie, combat soldiers with full equipment unload at Beirut. Serve notice to the world that our landing force is fully supported. Our troops there to stay as long as United States help is needed by Lebanon's government.
It's imperative that we have 4 J-75 jet engines immediately.
Call Rosemont for 2 cases of 45 ammo.
Rosemont, this is Rosemont Charlie. We need 2 cases of 45 ammo right away.
Special requests start rolling in. Each service, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, takes requests from the field, screens them, passes the requirement on to Scott Air Force Base. MAT's headquarters determines capability, refers the mission to ESTAF. ESTAF draws on available planes from Charleston, Dover, or McGuire itself. MATS always retains a substantial number of its fleet in readiness to support our deterrent force, SAC, Strategic Air Command.
That's 80406, surface winds 230 degrees at 12 knots, clear for takeoff.
Material and equipment are flown direct from factory to Beirut, arriving hours after the call goes out. Demands for food and other necessities are met. Milk plants up their production. With modern packaging techniques, even perishable foods like milk are now available around the world. As any GI will remember, a drink of fresh milk is a big morale booster. As the pace increases, civilian airline planes become partners with MATS in taking up the slack. In peacetime, MATS utilizes civilian aircraft regularly. For a national emergency, a force of almost 250 specially equipped aircraft and their crews reports to MATS for duty within 48 hours. The Civil Reserve Air Fleet. In a few weeks, things settled down in Lebanon. MATS flights were meeting all commitments there as well as normal worldwide missions. From the North to the South Pole, from Tokyo to Tripoli. Mission accomplished. Again, it was proved that men and weapons in the field are worthless without effective logistic support. Before the Lebanon operation is completed, the Far East breaks wide open. Leaves are canceled for MATS personnel around the world. Quemoy, the Matsus, and Taiwan face a communist invasion. Should nationalist China be lost, the whole Pacific Island complex will be threatened. Over 7,000 miles from the States, yet it must be defended. This time, the burden falls on Western Transport Air Force Headquarters, WESTAF, responsible for Alaska, the Pacific Islands, Japan, the Philippines, and the Far East, all the way to Arabia, and junction there with ESTAF. The Secretary of Defense orders a Tactical Air Command Composite Strike Force to the Far East. At the same time, MATS operation to support TAC's deployment begins. Personnel must be moved, spare engines, tires, wheels, tools, ammunition, rockets, food. Everything necessary to the strike force must be rushed to the Far East. Without support, the strike force would be out of action in a few short days. MATS sends teams to the various TAC bases to manage the operation and supervise the loading of cargo. Airlift frequency accelerates smoothly. Every mission flown in an emergency is the same mission that has been flown for years in training. Crews are familiar with routes, and base personnel know their business. In a matter of hours, a steady stream of planes is on the way. Hawaii, aircraft change crews. It's a long haul to Tokyo and Okinawa. Off-coming crews rest, then relieve the crew of another plane bound for the States or the Far East. An endless supply of food and material is hauled to Japan. Tachikawa Air Force Base near Tokyo, aircraft are flying in from the States. MAT's C-124s are shifted from East Staff to West Staff, and civilian airlift is contracted to ensure a steady flow of men and equipment. Tons and tons of cargo pour into Japan, staging area for Taiwan. TAC strike force is on board. Support equipment and supplies are in place. Base flight personnel stay on round-the-clock alert. Special missions to Taiwan go out at a moment's notice.
Attention, all MAT's flight personnel, report to operations immediately. Attention, all MAT's flight personnel, report to operations immediately.
While the guns of Quemoy and Matsu hurl shells into red positions on the mainland, outnumbered Chinese nationalist pilots knock MiGs out of the sky with almost no casualties of their own. The Sidewinder, a modern deadly missile which homes in on the heat of an enemy jet, helps even the odds. MAT's airlift delivers weapons where they're needed and when they're needed. West Staff Control Center. Missions move with precision. Civilian planes join MAT's to help meet the emergency. And then an urgent mission is requested. Transport an entire F-104 Starfighter squadron to Taiwan. Spare parts, pilots, ground crews, and aircraft.
Hello, MATS 00695. This is the West Staff Command Post. Be advised that you are to return. I say again, return. Land at Hamilton Air Force Base.
Military leaders have decided the sudden appearance of these crack new fighters over the Formosan Straits would do much toward revising communist plans to invade Quemoy. Since the Starfighter did not then have the range to fly over the Pacific and surface transportation is too slow, again the only answer is airlift. Time and surprise are essential ingredients of military success. This will provide both. Within a few hours, the first 104 is on its way. Near Okinawa, a typhoon develops. A MATS weather plane is dispatched to check its path.
Those 104s are due in here in 10 hours. We better divert them down to the Philippines. We'll be socked in here in Okinawa for the next couple of days.
In combat, accurate weather forecast is imperative. Globemasters carrying the F-104s arrived safely at Clark Field, last stop before Taiwan. American pilots and F-104s on red Chinese radar screens, a strong deterrent to further communist aggression. Mission accomplished. But worldwide, it's business as usual. Careful, efficient transfer of military patience. When necessary, airlift for victims of disaster. In time of need, MAT's worldwide air rescue is ready, aiding all people, military or civilian, of all nations. Somewhere in the Pacific, a fisherman is saved. Support of the International Geophysical Year at the Antarctic. Support of SAC's continuing global deployment and redeployment. Special missions involving high-level diplomatic and government officials. An alert force on the end of the runway, ready for brush fires like Lebanon and Taiwan. Ready to combat any act of aggression. No need to match enemy man for man, for the Military Air Transport Service produces 100 men where there was 1, 1,000 weapons where there was but 10, a mountain of equipment where there was but a barren field. MATS, a combat-ready team of planes and tough, efficient men.